I just realized now that entire time my mic wasn't on. Fucking idiot. Man, I am dumb. All right. So recap, because I'm a fucking moron. Um, I will be doing the day 7 Trump trial later today, when it's over, roughly. It might be this afternoon. Let me see. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah, so I might be doing that later this afternoon. Um, fuck, I'm a fucking moron. God, I'm so dumb. All right, so let me go over the housekeeping stuff again. Follow me on X at officialwghost. I am live on X, and you can also, see when I go live, see my tweets, whatever you want. Rumble.com/with ghost. That is my main channel. That's where everything goes. If I'm not on anywhere else, it's going to be Rumble for sure. And then youtube.com/@with-ghost, and then twitch.tv/official-with-ghost. Those are my various channels. Let's get into it because I've just wasted a bunch of time and I was fucking so pissed off about that. Oh well. All right. So to start off this is why a lot of people are calling election interference. Biden expected to keep robust public schedule while Trump is in court, Biden advisors say. Hold on. Sorry, messing with my mic. Let's see. All right. During the first 2 weeks of the Donald Trump criminal trial, Biden will have traveled to 4 states touting his policies on clean energy, reproductive rights, and manufacturing. And Biden advisors, both at the campaign and the White House, say the robust schedule will continue over the course of the coming weeks as his predecessor's trial plays out in Lower Manhattan Court through mid-June. A campaign official described the strategy as staying on course that Biden has been on for months, pounding the pavement while his rival sees on social media. We don't have to do anything out of the ordinary, campaign official told CNN, compared the difference in the candidate schedule in the month of March. But before the trial began, that implicit contrast is already there. While the White House has preferred to let the visual split screen in aides parlance speak for itself, the campaign has been sending off sharply worded missives, needling Trump for being off the campaign trail and lagging his 2020 fundraising benchmarks. Behind the scenes, campaign staff are using the week-long trial to recalibrate, plan, strategize for the spring to November, one official says. Pennsylvania is holding its presidential primary election today. If I remember correctly, Trump won that. All right, so motorcade arrives, not important. Not important. This is just basically stuff covering yesterday. I guess earlier today. So I guess they're doing the gag order hearing. Okay, so there's a gag order hearing. Let's see. Prosecutor is at the podium and is handing the 10 alleged violations of the gag order to Judge Merchant and Trump's attorneys. He said there are other papers he may reference in the bundle. The purpose of this hearing is to find out if defendant Trump should be held in contempt for one or all these violations, Merton said. Each of Trump's posts posed a very real threat to the proceedings. Really? Judge, each of the 10 posts I've just handed the court violate the gag order, prosecutor said. Each of Trump's posts pose a very real threat to the proceedings, he added. Prosecutor said the posts intimate both the defendants, direct targets, and others who may be called to testify. Prosecutors said Trump violated the gag order Monday outside court. The defendant violated the order again on camera. He did it right here in the hallway outside. He said the prosecutor said prosecutors will file another motion over the violation later today. The defendant has violated this order repeatedly and hasn't stopped. Let's see. Judge is now hearing arguments on whether Trump should be held in contempt of court for allegedly violating the gag order on the case at least 10 times in the days before and after trial began. Prosecutors are seeking the punishment for Trump to be $1,000 per allegation. Judge has said in prior court orders he will be looking at possible instances of violations where Trump was primarily sharing commentary about expected trial witness Michael Cohen, who called him a serial perjurer. These are the various posts. Judge should sanction Trump for each. Prosecutor said judge should sanction Trump for each of the violations of the gag order. Like, first off, I don't like gag orders. I can understand about the juries. Yes, I could agree with that. But everyone else should be free game. They're all in the public eye. They should be free game. Okay. That's what it is. Simple as that. Prosecutor has raised its Trump post on April 10th about Michael Avenatti, in which Trump appears to reference Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen as two sleazebags. The judge asked the prosecutor to tie the post to the exact violation of the gag order, and the prosecutor said that by calling them sleazebags and going after their credibility, I think it's all part of the plan for this trial. There's no other reason to be talking about that than related to this. Prosecutor told judge that going after Michael Cohen is a recurring theme in these posts. The prosecutor noted Trump's post of a story called calling Cohen a serial perjurer. Let's see. Prosecutors. Trump has also referenced former Manhattan prosecutor Mark Pomerantz, according to the prosecutor. Trump also has tried to make Pomerantz somehow an issue in this case. Prosecutor noted to the judge that the social media posts from Trump that he's referencing are occurring while we're in trial. The trial's now begun, he added. Trump's posts about jurors are very troubling. Let's see. The prosecutor now mentions Trump's True Social posts about jurors in which he quoted Fox News' Jesse Waters, calling them undercover liberal activists lying to the judge. This is a very troubling post, the prosecutor says. I think the link to the jurors in this case, in this proceedings, is very clearly a violation of the orders. Cornery says the day after the post, a juror was excused after saying she was no longer felt comfortable serving on the jury. What happened here is precisely what this order was designed to prevent, and this defendant doesn't care, Connery said. It came from a segment specifically discussing juror profiles in this case. To me, that shows very clear, deliberate, and willfulness in making the post. Now, unless he mentions the jurors by name, there's no fear for them, really. Like, let's be honest. There's nothing for them to really fear. This is all dumb. Let's see. Trump on Monday evening commented on the jury process ahead of a hearing on his potential gag order violations, claimed the jury for his hush money trial is majority Democrat. The jury was picked so fast, 95% Democrat. The area is mostly all Democrat. You think of it as just a purely Democratic area. It's a very unfair situation, Trump said in his interview on Real America's Voice. Judge is holding a hearing on whether to fine Trump for repeatedly violating the gag order, barring him from publicly discussing witnesses or juries in the criminal hush money case. Now, again, I agree with the jury part, not the witnesses. Everyone's in the public eye. They all should be free game. Jill Converser, former New York State Supreme Court justice, told CNN on Monday that she believes Trump comments were a violation of Trump's gag order. Shocking. Trump has repeatedly rallied against the gag order, and his lawyers argued he has not violated it. Let's see. Trump's violations of the gag order are made with knowledge and are willfully beyond a reasonable doubt, prosecutor said. There is no doubt this defendant made these statements. It'd be really funny. He was like, I don't even have control of my social media. I gave it over to someone else. That'd be hilarious. Prosecutor told the judge that the appellate department denied Trump's attempt to fight the gag order before the trial began. There's no provisions in this order for responding to attacks. Trump's lawyers are trying to muddy the water by arguing he can respond to attacks. It's clear he knows about the order. He knows what he's not allowed to do, and he does it anyways. There's no indication that Trump's claims he's responding to attacks is anything more than an after-the-fact justification. Prosecutors say that Trump's argument that he should be able to repost others' statements without violating the gag order flies in the face of common sense. Trump's reposts are some of his most dangerous statements, pointing to an article he shared last year where he had a baseball bat. Trump is launching specific separate attacks on two witnesses and attacking potential jurors and jurors. He is intentionally breaching the crystal clear, unequivocal lines set by this court on April 1st, designed to protect the integrity of this process. And the prosecutor is not seeking an incarcerated penalty. We are asking the court to impose the max fine of each of the 10 violations court said. Prosecutor says his team is asking the court to order Trump to remove the 10 posts, 8 from his social media, 2 from his website. The court should remind that incarceration is an option should it be necessary. Let's see. Trump's attorney, President Trump does in Trump does in fact know that the gag order allows him to do and not allow him to do. There was absolutely no willful violation of the gag order. Trump's attorney said the posts the former president made involving Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen were in direct response to statements those two made, not about the trial. Blanche added that Cohen directly responded to one of Trump's posts politically. It was not about the case or his testimony. Trump's lawyer tells the judge that 2 things about a Trump post referencing Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen make it political, pointed to a reference to being pardoned and how Daniels and Cohen are making money posting about the former president and their strong dislike of him. Judge steers Blanche back on task, asking him to refer directly to the post at issue, rather than infer the general meaning of the public comments from Cohen and Daniels. So the pardon is what makes it political, Merchant asked Blanche. Of course. Blanche responded, when your client is violating a gag order, I expect more than one word. What? Mert said in response to Blanche's argument that a reference to pardons is political in nature. In the back and forth between the judge and Trump's attorney, Merchant says you're suggesting that merely the use of a word pardon is sufficient for your client to violate a gag order. Blanche retorts, absolutely not. Trump is allowed to respond to political attacks. So I'm assuming he got fined. I'm just based on what's going on. Uh, Judge pressed Trump's attorney on specifics about Michael Cohen attacking Trump politically. There's no specific post that you're referring to, he asked Blanche. Blanche said in general, he's generally referring to repeated attacks from Cohen and Stormy Daniels, who he said has ramped up their political attacks and their attacks on him as a candidate as well in the weeks leading up to the trial. Judge pushes Trump's attorney to zero in on what specific attacks from Cohen and Daniels prompted the former president post on social media. There must have been a very recent attack to him pull out a document that is 6 years old and is going to be used at trial. The judge just raised his voice while Trump's attorney was talking. I'm asking the questions. I'm going to be the one who decides whether your client is in contempt. Keep asking over and over again for a specific answer. I'm not getting an answer. Let's see. Judge wants Trump's attorney to explain Trump's post about former Manhattan prosecutor. Merchant asks why Trump had to discuss someone who's on the witness list. Blanche says Palmantes is not a witness expected to testify at trial. Saying Cohen's name is not prohibited, but making connections to trial is. Judge speaking about Trump's comments on Cohen said using the name is not prohibited, making connection to the trial is prohibited. Trump's attorney argued that the post in question has nothing to do with this case, but rather it has to do with the system and the fact that Trump very strongly believes the people should be prosecuted Cohen for lying. Judge then asked if Trump is attacking Cohen's credibility like he's attacking Miss Daniels' credibility. Blanche said no. Trump is attacking the people and the system for not prosecuting Cohen for lying. There are two systems of justice, Blanche said, noting Alan Weisselberg is in jail for lying under oath and Cohen is going to be a witness. Judge is now asking how reposts get on Trump's true social feed. He says it's not passive. It means someone had to do something. Merchant says that there's an active action to repost things, and he doesn't buy that. By calling it a repost, your client can wash your hands of it. You presented nothing, Judge says to Trump's attorney. I've asked you 8 or 9 times to show me the exact post he's responding to. You've been unable to do that even once. We're learning about Trump's social media in today's gag order. Trump's attorney says Trump has a group of folks who work with the former president and find articles they think Trump's audience should read. Judge says he wants to hear an assertion under oath that Trump believes he wasn't violating the gag order when he made the posting questions. Merchant said, how do I know his position? Are you testifying on oath that that's his position? I'm not testifying. I'm making an argument, attorney said. It's your client's position that when he reposts, he does not believe he's violating gag order. I'd like to hear that. Or do you just want me to accept it because you're saying it? Merchant says to Blanche. Moving on to the post about the jury and Jesse Waiters. Judge asked, your client manipulated what was said and put it in quotes. Am I right? I wouldn't use the word manipulation, Your Honor, Trump's lawyer said. But the rest of the quote was not part of the quote. Merchant said Trump's post on the jury was not a repost. This is something that was said on TV and your client had to type it out. He had to sit there, use quotations and shift key and type everything out and then add those additional words, the judge said. Blanche acknowledged that Trump's post about the jury was not a repost. You're losing all credibility with the court, Merchant told Blanche. This gag order we are trying to comply with, Trump's attorney said before judge. Trump is being very careful to comply with your orders, Blanche had. In respect to reposts, judge says you're not giving me anything to hang my hat on to say you're right. This is ambiguous. The court should make it crystal clear what it means with the reposts, Trump attorney said, adding they didn't read the gag order the same way. Judge says that when Trump's attorney claims Trump got too close to the line with reposts, they should have told him the client is thinking of reposting something. After Blanche sat back down, he passes a note to Trump, who is reading it. Let's see. Judge says he reserves a decision on the gag order. After hearing from the prosecutors and Trump's attorneys, judge says he is reserving a decision on the gag order. The court is now on a short break. God damn, this is fucking ridiculous. The gag order is dumb. Now look, let's be honest. Here's what's gonna fucking happen. He's gonna get, he's gonna get a violation or a fine for violating the gag order. Let's see. Okay. All right. So they have not. Yeah. No. Look. If you don't know that Trump is is going to get hit with a violation, you're dumb. He's clearly going to get hit with a violation. Okay. So David Pecker, he's the then chairman of American Media Inc. He was part of the whole catch and kill schemes that Trump used. Basically, they buy a story and then bury it. Yeah. So he's been granted immunity and signed a non-prosecution agreement with the prosecutors. The prosecutor will lead the questioning of David Pecker, who is on the witness stand. Pecker testified less than 30 minutes yesterday. Let's see. Pecker testified that he's known Trump since the late 1980s. Prosecutor asked him to identify him in the court. Pecker smiled, pointed over to the defense table, and said he's sitting wearing, I think, a dark blue suit. Let's see. Prosecutor asked Pecker to explain his relationship with Trump. I've had a great relationship with Mr. Trump over the years, Pecker says. Pecker said back in 89, he had an idea of creating a magazine called Trump Style, and I presented it to Trump. He liked the idea a lot. He just questioned me who was going to pay for it. Prior to acquiring the National Enquirer in 99, Pecker said he had a lot of dealing and discussing with Trump as a celebrity in his own right. At the time, he was very helpful, introduced me to other executives and other people in New York. Pecker added that Trump would advise him on events and parties he could either attend himself or send his editors to. So what they're doing right now is just trying to build the relationship between the two of them. Pecker says he had prosecutor is now asking Pecker about The Apprentice. Pecker said the show was an instant success, and he's had a number of conversations with Trump about the show. He was always kind enough to send me the content, the show ratings, Pecker said, and I was able to publish that in the National Enquirer. Trump would share the ratings and show information for The Apprentice with Pecker, who would publish the information in the National Enquirer and other magazines. It was a mutually beneficial relationship, Pecker said, noting he didn't have to pay for it, but Trump got the publicity for the show in return. Pecker confirmed he considered Trump a friend at least until 2017. Pecker said before 2015 he saw Trump monthly or maybe quarterly, but after Trump announced that he was running for president, I saw Mr. Trump more frequently, Pecker said. Pecker is explaining how he and Trump would communicate by phone frequently through their office and assistants. There were times Trump's bodyguards would pass messages to Trump from Pecker. He said he also visited Trump at Trump Tower on multiple occasions over the years. Pecker is testifying that he saw Trump review and sign invoice and checks. Okay. But that doesn't necessarily, he may have looked over these invoices and checks. Doesn't necessarily mean he looked over Michael Cohen's invoices and checks. He describes sitting in Trump's office when assistant Rowan Graf walked in and gave him invoices and checks to sign. I noticed he reviewed the invoices and looked at the check, and he would sign them. So this is their attempt to, hold on. So this is their attempt to say, hey, he's done it. It's just a breadcrumb to show, like, hey, he looked over invoices. Then he's probably looking over them now. That's basically what this is in particular. They're just trying to get him more on the, hey, he's done it before, so you should look out. So yeah, it's basically establishing that, like, in the past he looked over invoices and check and sign them. So he obviously knew everything. he knew about the whole Michael Cohen stuff, and he was able to sign those. That's what it's basically going for. Let's see. Pecker says Trump is very knowledgeable and very detailed oriented in business. Pecker was asked to describe Trump as a businessman. I describe Mr. Trump as very knowledgeable. I would describe him as very detailed oriented. I would describe him almost as micromanager. He looked at all aspects of whatever the issue was. So again, just trying to establish that, hey, he controls all his business. This is why he has a hand in these hush money cases. Let's see. Prosecutor asked Pecker about Trump's approach to money. Pecker said that Trump was very cautious and very frugal. Pecker says he first met Cohen at 2000. Trump introduced Cohen as his new hire to Pecker in 2007. Pecker said Trump told him that now my contacts go through Cohen. If there are any rumors in the marketplace about Mr. Trump or his family or any negative stories, there were coming out or things that I overheard, I would go through. I would call Cohen directly, he testified. Here's what Trump is doing. Prosecutors oh no, not important. I'm not going to read all this stuff like, oh, Trump's doing this, Trump's doing this, Trump's doing this. I'm not going to read any of that. It's not important. In 2015, after Trump announced his candidacy, Pecker said his contact with Cohen increased to a minimum of every week. There was an issue, it could be daily, Pecker said of his contact with Cohen. Do you know somebody named Hop Hicks? Prosecutor asked Pecker. Yes, I do, Pecker replied. Pecker said he knew Hicks when she worked for Ivanka's company and did public relations for Star Magazine before she became Trump's campaign communications director. After Trump's campaign for president began in 2015, Pecker said interest in Trump through his magazine skyrocketed. Pecker said they did research on potential coverage to see what would sell best. It was Trump viewed as the boss in a boardroom, Pecker said. Pecker said he attended Trump's presidential campaign announcements in 2015. Trump is watching. I don't care. Being invited. So Pecker was invited by Cohen to attend the announcement at Trump Tower. Prosecutors have submitted an email from Michael Cohen as evidence. On June 2nd, 5th of 2015, Cohen personally invited Pecker to Trump's campaign announcement invite. In the email, Cohen asked Pecker to attend the event. No one deserves to be there more than you, the email says. As a friend, I would love if you could make it. Let me know so I can save you a seat next to me on the atrium floor. Let's see. Prosecutor is now asking Pecker about the August 2015 meeting in Trump Tower and Cohen and Trump. I received a call from Cohen saying the boss wanted seeing. Hope Hicks was in and out of the meeting. Describing the 2015 Trump Tower meeting, Pecker said at the meeting, Trump and Cohen, they asked me what I can do and what my magazine could do to help the campaign. Pecker said he would be your eyes and ears. What I would do is run or publish positive stories about Mr. Trump. I would publish negative stories about his opponent. And I said that I would also be eyes and ears. I said I would be your eyes and ears. Pecker continued to recall that what he offered Trump in the August 2015 meeting. Anything that I hear in the market, if I hear anything negative about yourself, or if I hear anything about women selling stories, I would notify Cohen, as I did over the last several years. And Cohen, then he would be able to have them killed in another magazine, or have them not be published, or somebody would have to purchase them. Yeah. Pecker explained why he raised women at the meeting. In a presidential campaign, I was the person that thought there would be a lot of women that would come out trying to sell their stories because Mr. Trump was well known as the most eligible bachelor and dated the most beautiful women, Pecker said. To underscore the point to the jury, prosecutor asked Pecker a series of questions about what he offered to do. He asked Pecker to confirm that he published positive stories about Trump, published negative stories about his opponent, alerted about damaging information involving women. Pecker said yes. Pecker testified, I think it was mutually beneficial. It would help his campaign. It would also help me. Let's see. Prosecutor asked Pecker how Trump reacted to Pecker's suggestion he would continue to run negative stories about Bill and Hillary Clinton. He was pleased. Okay. Pecker said about Bill and Hillary Clinton, said stories about Bill and Hillary Clinton were great sellers for the magazine. Pecker testified that when he went to Cohen to notify him about a negative story, Cohen would vet the story to see if it was true or not, and then go to the individual publication to try and make sure the story wasn't published. Prosecutors asked Pecker if he ever purchased a story about Trump in order for it not to be printed prior to August 2015 meeting with Trump and Cohen in Trump Tower. No, Pecker said. Did that part help the National Enquirer at all? Pecker replied, no, that didn't help. Pecker said his agreements were not put into writing because it was just an agreement among friends. Prosecutors also had confirmed that the positive stories about Trump were mutual benefit, but stopping stories from being printed about Trump only benefited the campaign. Pecker testified that at the time he told Howard, who was editor-in-chief of the National Enquirer, that an agreement I made has to be highly, highly confidential. I told him we're going to try and help the campaign, and to do that, I want to keep this as quiet as possible, Pecker said. Pecker said leaks were more prevalent in the organization, so he didn't want anyone else to know about the agreement he had with Trump. So that's why I kept it very confidential, Pecker said. So they're seeing a series of National Enquirer articles praising Trump. Per defense request, judge instructs that the exhibit is being entered for limited purposes of showing the articles were published and when, but they are not in evidence for any other purpose. Pecker is explaining how Cohen played a role in the negative stories that the National Enquirer ran about Trump's political opponents. Cohen would call me and say, we would like you to run a negative article on a certain, let's say for argument's sake, on Ted Cruz. Then Cohen, would send me information about Cruz or Ben Carson or Rubio, and that was the basis of our story. And then we would embellish it from there, he testified. Pecker testified that Conan told him that he wasn't part of the campaign and instead of was on the outside as Trump's personal attorney. However, Pecker said Conan seemed to have an informal role in the campaign, or he injected himself into it. Michael was physically in every aspect of whatever the campaign was working on, at least the Trump organization at Trump Tower, at the least when he was physically there, Pecker said. Let's see. Prosecutor is now showing Pecker some of the negative stories about Trump's opponents on the National Enquirer ran. October 7th, 2015, bungling surgeon Ben Carson left sponge in patient's brain. February 12th, 2016, Ted Cruz shamed by porn star. Pecker said that while they were preparing an article like the one on Cruz, they would communicate with Conan. So here, we'll read this because it kind of helps break it down. So, like I said, the mutual beneficial relationship between Trump and National Enquirer. Trump was cautious and frugal in handing his money, so much so he personally reviewed invoices and signed checks. Trump's and Conan's contact with Trump increased significantly once he began running for president. Trump, Conan, and Pecker had an in-person meeting in August 2015 where the agreement was generally made. How key Cohen was to Trump's attempt to manipulate media coverage during the 2016 campaign. So, the kind of important part is the caution frugal in handling his money and the whole reviewing invoices and signing checks. Now, it didn't specify how many times he witnessed this in person. I don't remember Pecker specifying it. Let me see if I can scroll back. Let's see. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like just the one time. I could be wrong, but it sounds like to me it was just the one time. So I don't, it depends on how. Yeah, I don't know. Because if it's just like that's an argument. If it's just the one time, well, we saw that one time. Maybe he's done it a couple times, but there's no proof he did it in this instance. Just because you do something one time doesn't mean that you did something every time. It could be that the invoices and checks he was signing for were something for like a lot of money, like a couple hundred million, like a couple million or something like that, or there's various reasons why he looked at this particular invoice. Maybe he personally made the deal and he wanted to make sure everything was on the up and up on this instant, for all we know. So it really depends if they, it doesn't look like he did, but very important what those invoices were. Okay, Pecker said he wanted to clarify how the system between the Enquirer and Cohen worked. When we were preparing an article, we communicated what we were doing at the directions of articles from Conan, and we would send him the PDFs of the stories before it was published. He testified. Pecker said that while the team was preparing to run a negative article on one of Trump's rivals, they would be in communication with Conan. He would comment on them. So we added content based on the information Conan provided them. Pecker said he couldn't recall if Conan ever shared his headlines with the boss, which Pecker testified is how Conan referred to Trump. Okay. Let's see. Prosecutors asked Pecker if an article with the headline Ted Cruz sex scandal, 5 secret mistresses, was discussed with Conan. We would have discussed that, yes. Let's see. Prosecutor asked Pecker whether the articles were published in the spring of 2016 if Cruz was gaining popularity around the time. I believe so, Pecker says. Pecker says he believes negative stories on Marco Rubio ran as he was gaining popularity. Yeah, that's kind of when you would, run a negative story, right? When your opponent's gaining a popular story. Like, I don't see this as a big deal. Officials do this, or campaign runners do this all the goddamn time. Prosecutors also showed National Enquirer headlines about Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio, another one of Trump's 2016 rivals. He's asked Pecker if he ran those headlines when Rubio was getting popular. The same question he asked about the negative stories on Ted Cruz. Pecker said again he believes that was the case, but doesn't remember when Rubio dropped out. Let's see. Former tabloid executive Pecker continues to outline how the catch and kill operations worked at the National Enquirer and the influence Trump had. Pecker said Conan, Trump's former attorney, would direct him and Howard, then editor in chief of the National Enquirer, on which candidate and which direction the magazine should go. Let's see. Trump introduced Pecker to Trump's former political advisor, Steve Bannon, in October 2016. He said he thought all of us could work very well together. Pecker said Trump told him. Pecker recalled he personally sent a box of magazines issued with negative headlines about Trump's opponent, including Clinton, to Bannon. Let's see. Prosecutor asked Pecker if Bannon ever asked him to run out any articles. Trump's attorney objected and asked to be heard at a sidebar. In a sidebar, Trump's attorney says the defense is objecting to the line of questioning about Bannon. The government is listing hearsay statements from Bannon as they declare they're being offered for their truth, he says. Bove also notes that the defense did not receive notice that prosecutors are offering Bannon as a co-conspirator and says Trump is not charged with conspiracy. Defense attorneys and prosecutors are having a sidebar after Trump's attorney objected to prosecutors' line of questioning. Steinglass says he's making the larger argument about the case, including conspiracy, because this is an issue he's expected the defense will raise again with future testimony. The entire case is predicated on the idea that there's a conspiracy to influence the election in 2016, Steinglass tells the judge. Steinglass argued that this is fair game because intent is an underlying element of falsifying business records in the first degree, so prosecutors can use evidence like this to prove their allegations that Trump conspired or took steps to conceal the acts he charged with. Pushing back on that, Trump's attorney said anything involving Bannon was very normal standard campaign work. Bannon issues moot after the judge says that Bannon issue right now is moot after prosecutors says they are prepared to move on. Merchant's taking a break. This normally happens after they excuse the jury. They'll normally take a break. All right. Now continues the line of questioning. He begins asking Pecker if he asked the business record, if he had access to the business records of AMI, the National Enquirer's parent company. Let's see. Prosecutors just handed a court security officer a thumb drive to bring Pecker. He's about to introduce a bunch of business records from AMI, the National Enquirer's parent company, into evidence. Sorry. Let's see. Prosecutors continue to walk Pecker through record keeping information like text messages on the servers of AMI, which is the National Enquirer's parent company. He is teeing up text messages for court records to submit them into evidence. Trump's attorney objected after prosecutors started to walk witness Pecker through how AMI kept records like text messages. The judge asked lawyers to come to the bench. Judge says he doesn't want the party to speak about objections from the jury. Following the sidebar, documents are accepted into evidence over Trump's team's objections. Objections noted and overruled. judge says, noting that they are embedded hearsay issues will be dealt with as they move through the documents. Let's see. Prosecutors now is now moving on to Pecker about the story of Dino Saljudin, the doorman who was selling a story that Trump had allegedly fathered a child. This is a catch and kill, the first catch and kill deal that has come up. I immediately called Conan and described to him exactly what I was told by Dylan. Pecker said, referencing National Enquirer editor. According to Becker on the stand, Conan responded, absolutely not true, but I'll check it out. After Pecker alerted Conan that a doorman was selling a story about Trump allegedly fathering a child, Conan called Pecker back. Pecker testified. Conan told Pecker he verified that the two names were on payroll and asked Pecker to check out the story. Pecker testified. Pecker explained he called Conan because of their August 2015 meeting, where he agreed that anything he heard in the marketplace that was going to be negative to Trump or his family or the campaign, he'd notify Conan. Pecker started to say on stand they discussed having Dino Sajudin, a former Trump Tower doorman, take a polygraph test, but prosecutor quickly cut him off. What you were about to say, don't say that. Judge previously ruled polygraph information could not come into evidence. Steinglass again told Pecker not to discuss any results of the polygraph test Sajudin took. Yeah, the reason for that is polygraphs don't really hold up in court. They don't. Because it's very subjective. Like, you can get a false positive just for being like overly stressed out because you're being, interrogated or something. So that's why polygraphs aren't usually allowed in court. Pecker testified that he asked former National Enquirer editor-in-chief Howard to negotiate a price to buy the story and take it off the market in regard to the doorman selling a story that Trump allegedly fathered a child. Pecker said Howard negotiated to pay $30,000 to buy a story. He called Conan to tell him, and Conan asked who would pay for it. Pecker says he agreed to buy the story. Conan told the boss will be very pleased. Pecker asked him specifically who the boss was. The boss would be Donald Trump. Pecker replied. Let's see. Jury is now viewing an agreement AMI, the parent company of National Enquirer, struck with Dino Sajudin, the doorman selling a story about Trump allegedly fathering a son. The deal was to purchase the rights to the story, and the document is dated November 15, 2015. Pecker testified that the story was true. It would be probably the biggest sale of National Enquirer since the death of Elvis Presley. Pecker said if the story was verified, he would publish it after the election based on the conversation he had with Conan. If the story came out true, I would publish a story shortly after it was verified. But Pecker said he would have held the story until after the presidential election, even if he verified it before then. That was a conversation I had with Conan, and that's what we agreed to. Turns out not to be true because I don't remember seeing that story at all. Pecker is explaining the documents the jury's seeing. It's up to the publisher whether they're going to publish an article or not. He said, you continue paying the $30,000, you have full excuse to it, and you had the choice to publish the article or not. Prosecutor showed Pecker an amendment to the agreement that said that the agreement is extended in perpetuity and shall not expire. Let's see. Pecker turned to the jury and said the story about Trump allegedly fathering a child was absolutely 1,000% untrue. He said that he determined it was false after hiring a private investigator and sending reporters out to where the child supposedly was. Prosecutor asked Pecker why they were paying for a story that was not true. If an article goes out to another publication or another media outlet, it would have been very embarrassing to the campaign. Yeah, and even if it came out, oh, it's not true, they're not gonna the media outlet or publication isn't gonna like, oh, by the way, this wasn't true. They just move on. The agreement contains a clause that would require Trump's doorman Dino, to pay MI $1 million if he breached the agreement, which he was paid 30,000. It is basically a lever over him to make sure that wouldn't happen. Pecker testified. Pecker also said he determined jointly with Cohen to amend the agreement to extend the time frame in perpetuity. I have no idea what that means. Let's see. Oh, excuse me. Forever. Okay. Just a fancy way of saying forever. Okay. So Trump's attorneys object to the next exhibit. The lawyers are now the Brents. Let's see. Judge has ruled the exhibit can be displayed with a redaction. The exhibit prosecutors are showing is an email about the paperwork for a wire payment to Trump's doorman, Dino Sajin. The email referenced Trump's non-published story. Pecker said he told Cohen that the story about Trump allegedly fathering a child wasn't true, and he wanted to release the doorman from the agreement. Pecker said that Cohen asked him to wait to release him until after the election. Cohen initially didn't understand why. Pecker testified, and he explained, I said that to have him lock into us is going to cause us more problems. I suggested I wanted to release him. General counsel emailed the doorman, Dino Sajin, in December 2016, informing him he had been released from his exclusivity agreement. Prosecutor asked Pecker if he knows someone named Karen McDougal. Let's see. Yes, I do. McDougal is a model and actress who said she had a month-long affair with Trump in 2006 and was paid $150,000 to keep quiet about it by the National Enquirer. Trump has denied the allegations. Let's see. Pecker described how. Pecker said former National Enquirer editor in chief Howard came to him in June of 2016, saying he received a call from one of his major sources in California. There's a Playboy model who was trying to sell a story about a relationship she had with Trump for a year, adding that it was a romantic relationship. Prosecutors asked Pecker whether Howard believed the relationship also had a sexual component. Yes, he thought that, Pecker said, but he didn't know that at the time. Pecker is testifying that about former Playboy model Karen McDougal's story about an affair she alleged with Trump. He said Cohen's immediate reaction to hearing that about McDougal's story about Pecker at the time was, it's untrue, absolutely not true. Pecker told Cohen that this is a little different and suggested they vet the story. Cohen agreed that was a good idea, Pecker testified. Pecker went on to say that he asked former National Enquirer editor-in-chief Howard to go to California to interview McDougal and find out the details were. Pecker said that around the time Karen McDougal's allegations were brought up, he was speaking to Cohen nearly every day, sometimes a couple of times per day. Pecker testified that Cohen told him they shouldn't talk on a landline, suggested they switch to the Signal app. Pecker said he didn't know what Signal was, but it's basically like an encrypted app, by the way. It's like a text messaging app that you can use, and it's encrypted. Pecker said he didn't know what Signal was, but agreed to use it. Every time I used it, it dropped off after 30 seconds. Pecker is describing a call he had with Trump about Playboy model McDougal. McDougal's allegations after a former National Enquirer. The former National Enquirer, Howard interviewed her. I'm not going to keep saying that goddamn title. Pecker said he was he was at an event and was told by his assistant he had a phone call from Trump. Pecker says that it was his understanding that McDougal didn't want to have her story published, and he suggested that Trump buy the story. So Pecker said, "Hey, buy the story." Pecker testified that he told Cohen to relax because he kept on calling me to ask about Howard's interview with McDougal. Pecker said he'd let him know what and when he heard from Howard, and he said each time Cohen called, he seemed more anxious, as if he was under pressure. Under pressure. When asked about Mike Cohen's tone in the frequent calls, Pecker said Michael was very agitated. It looked like he was getting a lot of pressure to get an answer like right away. Or maybe he was just pressuring himself because he really wanted to, show he was good. Court is done with testimony for the day. Jury is getting instructions before they're let out. So it's been 2 hours since he testified. So there we go. So that's the end of day 2 of the Trump trial, or day 6 of the Trump trial. Yeah, I think I'm making a good decision. This is basically going to take up my entire stream. I could stream for a little longer, but I think I'm going to call it quits here. Later this afternoon, when the day 7 is over, I will come back and I'll cover day 7 because I'm going to listen to live the Trump's arguments, or the oral arguments with the justices, because that's going to be very interesting. If you don't know, this is the immunity argument that Trump is fighting for, saying as president he gets federal criminal immunity. I agree, he does have it. Hold on. I agree he has it. He clearly has it. Anyone who doesn't think that doesn't really understand shit. So yeah. Let's see. Is that all I got? Yeah. So later this afternoon, I will be covering day 7. Hope you all have a good day. Make sure you follow me on my various platforms, and I hope you all have a good day. Let's see. Make sure. Yeah. So follow me, like, subscribe to the video. Have I not been live this entire time? You gotta be fucking kidding me. No, I have been live.